Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And some major news yesterday coming out of the Call of Duty scene once again, that being Methodz benched off of the Toronto Ultra. This is a very interesting change, not the one I expected to be talking about first for the Call of Duty League 2021, but what does this mean? Did Ultra require a change? Is Methodz the one who should have gone if they did? And also, what does it mean for Methodz right going forwards? The biggest name, the biggest brand, certainly on this Ultra lineup. He's going to be well out of a team at least for the near future, going to be working his way through the challenger side. Is he going to be getting back into the starting lineup of the Ultra or another professional league team anytime soon? That is, well, certainly not guaranteed by any means. Do take your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's hop into things then. So Westlake yesterday finally confirmed their new roster. It's been chaos, honestly, in the challenger scene. Paul X, Venom, Zaptius and Hamza Frosty, that being Glow Frosty of course. And so, well, of course, with Methodz coming into play as well, it's even more chaos, I'm sure, in some of these rosters right now. So, well, this is what Crone says real quick, just to look at some of the challenger stuff. So this is the Triumph team, Mayhem, Royalty, Proto and General, Simp, Dav, Fatty, Standy and Jimbo, Phantoms, Gintroid, Yeez, Rex, etc, etc. This is John's team, it looks like right now. Cruz is on this squad on the UYU team. Havoc has a team as well. And I'm sure towards the end of the video, there's a reasonable discussion to be had about some of the other teams, the likes of maybe the Florida Mutineers not looking so hard, the Minnesota Rokkr, Seattle Surge, of course. These are the types of teams, and the London Royal Ravens, of course, that have had a difficult time so far, that I would have expected to have made some moves or maybe bring on a different substitute or something of that nature, at least well, to kind of kickstart the roster changes that we're going to have this season. However, the Ultra one is certainly a surprise to me. This is what Methodz says yesterday then to almost 14,000 likes as of now. Before it comes from anyone else, I have been benched by the Ultra. Not really sure what to say or do. This is my best game since World War II and obviously was not expecting this. Appreciate the support in advance. So as of recording this video, Ultra haven't said anything. They haven't released any like statement or announcement or anything. You know, I think when Minnesota made changes like this, they had their coach Brian said, come on and kind of explain the decision. Be interesting to hear Marky B do the same, because there's been certainly a lot of discussion here. Firstly around, well, should they have made a change? And secondly around the exact change that they are making right here. Is Methodz the right player to get rid of? We'll look at some statistics here in a few minutes time, but it's certainly a very interesting move. This team, we imagine, given that their substitute is Insight, we imagine that's who's going to be coming in. He's traditionally played a main assault rifle role. He's played with CleanX in the past on Singularity, and it is effectively going to be an entirely European team for an organisation which actually isn't based in Europe, and the two European teams have players that certainly are not from just those particular regions. So very interesting move. I mean, first of all, let's I suppose consider, should this change have actually been made? Ultra certainly made a lot of roster changes last season as well. I mean, early on they were shuffling people left, right and centre to try and find the perfect lineup, so I can understand they're doing that again, but certainly for the first major roster change of the season, this is not exactly the one I was expecting it to be. So the Ultra right now are sitting at, well, joint top 8 in the league. They're 3 and 5 match win percentages. They really didn't look so good. I mean, they had a couple of nice results, but at the major especially, and I think they were like 1 in 4 of their group, like almost bottom in their group, which was not expected coming into the season. Their, you know, clutch factor certainly was not there. So this team really not looking spectacular, especially given that we're classic on the team that actually won an event, their own home series at the end of Modern Warfare. So I can certainly understand that the rationale for trying to make a change, trying to switch things up, because as I've been talking about quite a bit, at the World Championship at the end of the year, only the top 8 teams go, and as you can see already right here, there's some significant disparity being being brought about between the best teams at the top here and the worst teams down here on the right hand side. So I can understand if Ultra like, okay, we need to get better quickly, and to be honest, I think the other teams should be thinking along a similar vein, and I'm sure they are. These were some of the initial reaction then. So as Nameless says, benching Zin is a horrible decision. Pac-Man says as well, he never stood a chance. How unlucky and painfully obvious. The idea that, okay, Marky B being the coach, the idea was to create a European squad at the end of the day, and that is now what has happened after a poor first event performance, I suppose, first stage from these guys. They've never been more heated in a team decision. He works hard as hell and performs, draws the short end all the time in these situations, doesn't deserve this type of situation. Joey says, don't quite understand the Methodz decision. I suppose we don't really know until the matches, I guess. And you would never really know how the team chemistry is going on behind the scenes. So they like Methodz in the team, what's going on there? You've also got to ask the question though, Methodz is the biggest name on this lineup, right? He's the biggest brand. As you can see, his tweet got 14,000 likes, which certainly means this is a team change intended not for brand reasons or anything like that. It's a team change intended to improve the squad and to try and win, which is certainly an interesting situation given that Methodz has been, well, a pretty solid and serviceable assault rifle. As Octane says, Marky B has completed the European takeover, we imagine, with Insight coming into the team. This is a pretty funny copy paste I saw as well these last couple of days, and as Insight says, life comes at you fast. So this guy from England, he's going to be joining the team. Way back, you guys might remember on the Singularity squad on the Black Ops 4 season, it was at the Black Ops 4 World Championship. It was CleanX and Insight and some other guys just dominating Envoy Envy it was, X's Envy at the time, and well, definitely a very talented player indeed. And I think on paper, a lot of people see this change and think, okay, yeah, Methodz is a great assault rifle insight, okay, like we haven't really heard of this guy, is he actually going to be putting up the numbers? I have faith he can certainly do that, right? And maybe if the chemistry's there, this change actually could be a step in the right direction. But the idea that Methodz was the one to be swapped out is pretty interesting, right? And we did talk about this in the preseason when Insight was signed. The idea is, okay, like Insight's coming into the team, he's traditionally a main AR, like who's he actually going to be replacing but Methodz, right? Like you can't replace Bance with Insight because it doesn't work in terms of the roles. So the fact that they even got Insight as a sub meant that really it seemed like Methodz was the only player that was always going to be on the chopping block, which was a very interesting decision, I thought, from the Ultra management. It's kind of what Pac-Man's getting at, right? Like this was always an inevitability if their team was going through hard times and they wanted to make a substitution change, given they had no other sub that could fill in any other role. So very interesting stuff. As JaReal says, can't wait to see Insight with the squad. Back-to-back challenges and drop like a 1.67 in the final. So definitely a very talented player. It's going to be really interesting to see how this goes. As Macat says, Toronto have signed an AR as a sub. You know, I expect a full EU team sometime starting during the season. Marky B is at it again. He's finally completed it, as Classic says right here. Can't finally completed his European dream, I suppose, of this Toronto Ultra squad. So who really knows? He's been an animal for 3 straight CODs, says Spoof. And well, this I thought was pretty crazy given the fact that not too long ago, Methodz arguably has the play of the season so far with this 1 versus 4 clutch, right? So crazy decision, to be honest. We'll have a look at some stats here in just a second to have a look at this in more detail, because if you were going to make a change, is Methodz the one to change? As I said, given the fact that Inside has been their sub, it seemed like this was almost the plan all along. But at the same time, you know, is this change actually going to make a significant impact to their squad? If it does significantly change up the team dynamics or the chemistry, and of course with Zin being the only player who's not from the European region, maybe there is some benefit there with actually bringing Insight in and given the existing chemistry with CleanX, and maybe that actually works out to a better degree. But does it make this team like championship contenders overnight? I mean, I'm certainly not, right. And we'll have a look at the stats in a second here and maybe argue that, okay, Methodz has not exactly been in the worst spots so far this season. As Lionman says right here, you know, stage 1 cards for the Ultra. This is how it looks right now. So Methodz here with a 1.03 hard points. These overall figures right here are comparing this player to other players in their role. So Methodz gets like an 80 overall compared to what the other assault rifles are doing in the game, at least in terms of statistics. But I suppose the KD doesn't really tell the whole story here. So if you head to breakingpoint.gg, you can go to the top here, stats, then go to team stats. Not sure why this has disappeared on me, but here we are again. So this is the Toronto Ultra. I'll just make sure this is kind of fully on screen. So as you can see, their results so far this season, not exactly ideal. Couple of game 5 defeats, couple of game 5 victories, but certainly not the ideal start to the season that they would have wanted to have seen. So this is their stats so far, and I think it's pretty interesting to look at where Methodz stands, especially in terms of, I suppose, kills per 10 minutes and engagement rate, right? This might be what the coaching staff and what the management are looking at here to say, okay, like maybe Methodz isn't the perfect fit for the squad. We know that Methodz is a very slow assault rifle. That's how he's traditionally been. Is it really hurting his team? You could argue yes, you could argue no. But certainly I think that the pacing on this squad is not where it needs to be. You can see right here, especially in the hard points, Cammy and CleanX at a 48 average engagement, Bance is sitting at a 46, and Methodz is down here at a 43 engagements per 10 minutes. Now, it might not be an incredible disparity, but it's certainly more of a disparity than you see with the other teams. I mean, if we look at a squad like, let's look at OpTic real quick, just for example, you can see that on the whole, this team is slightly slower. I mean, Dashy and Envoy sitting here at about 45, 46 engagements per 10 minutes, Formal the many are sitting at 42. So they're relatively tight-knit in terms of, the difference between their ARs and their SMGs. And maybe the idea is we just need a faster assault rifle to keep up with our fast SMG players, because CleanX and Cammy are fantastic players, I think, and they play at a very fast pace. And maybe they do feel like they need a faster assault rifle to keep up with them. That's certainly an argument. I mean, Los Angeles Thieves is pretty interesting as well, because they have 2 very quick players. They've got Kenny and TJ here at a 48 engagements per 10 minutes, at least in the hard points, and Slash is here at a 46. So he's playing a very quick assault rifle role, whereas Methodz isn't necessarily doing that on the Ultra. So I can certainly see from a statistical standpoint why you might try and make this change, but I suppose it is a big question that going forwards to the rest of the season, what does this mean for the Ultra? I mean, this was funny that Crone tweeted out right here, no Doug, no Dub is a classic, no Twins, no wins on the Royal Ravens before the start of the season, but now no Ziddy, no Winnie for this Toronto Ultra squad. They did win an event last season with him clutching a 1v2 to actually win the event, you guys might remember, on Symmetricard Search and Destroy Game 5 against Atlanta FaZe to actually win at the own Toronto home series. So obviously a big name player for them, not just in terms of branding, but also in terms of what he's done for the team in the past historically. So very interesting change. As I say, it felt like this was the way it was going to go know, all along if this team didn't perform, but what does it mean for Methodz next run? And there are some interesting questions on that. As he says right here, despite what I think, this is the situation I'm in, and I've decided to play in challenges with Decimate, Drazah, and Twerk. I'm confident I'll be back where I belong in due time, and I appreciate your guys' support more than, you know, all this type of good stuff. So what does this mean going forward for Methodz, right? Given the fact that Ultra don't have any other substitutes on call, if Insight doesn't work out, do they bring Methodz back into the team? Does he actually want to come back into the team? Right, that's always something you've got to consider here, because I think he maybe feels that they've somewhat gone behind his back here. The 3 European guys on his teammates have like gone behind his back and said, okay, we want Insight in. So if Insight doesn't work, do they just get Methodz back in the team? Like, does he actually want to team with him? Is the chemistry going to be perfect there? You could argue it's not going to be, right? Which lends me to kind of believe that when's Methodz actually going to be coming back into the Ultra? Maybe never, maybe no time soon at all, which means yeah, other teams don't need a main assault rifle, right? Like, Methodz isn't going anywhere for the rest of this season. So is he just going to be on the bench for the rest of the season? It's not out of the question. Next season, if the league expands, does he go to a different team? I don't really know, man, but it's a very interesting change. One of the biggest names, the biggest brands, to be honest, in the league, especially outside of the big name organizations, and that being Methodz. You can see by the amount of interaction that his tweets get right here. So I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Just a couple of things to finish out, given we were on the topic of Lion Pro cards. This is the Minnesota Rokkr right now. As you can see, the stats here not looking pretty, to be honest, for these guys so far this stage. So what will the Minnesota Rokkr decide to do? I don't really think you can make a change. I mean, look at this team. Like, what are you actually going to do to try and change it on paper? Like, I think a lot of people were saying they had such a massive upgrade in theory over their last year's roster, but clearly not going so well. Maybe you try and bring a substitute on board to try and kick these guys into gear somewhat. And then the Florida Mutineers as well that I discussed earlier. Such an interesting team that we have right here, right? Because at least on the Minnesota Rokkr, everyone's kind of performing at the same relatively poor level. But on the Mutineers, you've got Awakening just absolutely gunning. I mean, in First Blood, he's 22-6, which is just outrageous. 93 overall. And then the rest of the guys, I mean, Neptune's been solid. Skies has been incredibly underwhelming, and Slactor's kind of been doing his job, but not exactly spectacularly. So certainly these teams I was expecting to see, okay, maybe they'll consider a change. I mean, Havoc's on the bench for the Mutineers. That could be an option you considered, especially after a pretty poor stage 1 by their standards. But it's actually the Toronto Ultra who decide to make the first move of the season so far, and maybe more to follow over the coming weeks. And I'm sure certainly after stage 2 we're going to see a lot of chaos, I imagine, in the Rostermania side. But intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. Know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
They may get around on the board.
Oh, they better. They better.
They may.
I don't know any more methods.
You don't have to do that.
And a 1 versus 4 has turned into a 1v2. Aqua might
What
give
are
a
we
3v
doing?
as well. Hold that. The nade is going to connect.
The trophy.
Not able to hit it. Oh,
Trophy
I
hit.
didn't realize. I thought he put it right on him. The trophy just saves his life.
Yeah, it
I
sure
thought
does.
it got in the window for a sec. 1v2. 25 seconds to work with. Trying to spot. People on both sides. Wins the first. Tries to snap to the second. 15 seconds to go. 1 versus
read it?
1. He spots him.
Oh,
Methodz 1v4. 6-0. And that just cannot happen.